Shepherds of Men is a secular movement started by three men of faith. We wholeheartedly believe that when we get the men right, we get the world right. We believe this because we believe that men are created and called to be leaders, and we believe there is an alarming deficit of leadership in our world today.
And although the three of us have come from drastically different backgrounds, our core principles have given us a unified voice that is needed now more than ever to pave the way for a fundamental change in our culture.
We are quite literally calling men to something great.
Welcome to the movement.
All right, what's up, world? This is Cam coming at you with Shepherds of Men. This is a very, very special evening, very special episode. I am here, as always, with my boys, Wilson.
What's going on?
And JP.
Hey, guys.
And a super special guest tonight, Mr. Cody Jefferson, is in the house with us from Tulsa, Oklahoma, right?
Yeah, let's go.
That's awesome, man. We are just getting to know Cody, and we literally had about 5 minutes of Cody's time before we started recording, and I am fired up out of my mind already. I've been following Cody for a little while now, got introduced to him through a mutual friend, and very like-minded, very similar missions, we believe. Honestly, I think Cody's probably just a little further down the road than we are, but a lot of the same heart and a lot of the same passion. So I'm excited about this, man. We really appreciate you being here. Just a couple of quick plugs. We have been What's on the Move with Shepherds of Men and the Men Reforged program. Things are launching. Things are launching quickly. We were just on the phone with Brad Parnell and the guys down at Genie Rocket today. And, well, I guess this will be next week. So whatever,
yeah.
A couple days ago. But the new landing page and all this stuff that's coming to direct you through the Men Reforged program is going to be coming out within the next week or so.
Yeah, by the time you listen to this,
it should be ready to rock. So we're pumped about that. We're excited about. I'm going to go ahead and put him on the spot. We're excited about Cody coming in to speak at one of our high carbon experiences soon.
Let's go.
He doesn't even know it yet, but it's going to happen.
Let's go.
He's excited about it.
I know.
Okay.
He told me earlier before he got on there. He's like, man, I can't wait to do one of those events for you.
Yeah.
I'm in.
It's going to be great, man. So y'all just stay tuned. I know everybody's eager, so stay tuned with that, and we'll be launching soon. So shepherdsof.men is where you can find everything. And it's going to be all new and sexy and everything else before you know it. So without anything else, you guys have any other things y'all want to throw down? I want to let everybody get to know Cody that doesn't know him already.
No, yeah, I'd like to let him speak.
Yeah, I'd like to let
For sure.
Likewise.
So Cody, we cut you off. I cut you. I'll take responsibility. I cut you off from telling some of your story because I wanted to make sure we were capturing it for the podcast. So I'm just going to ask you again, as if we have no idea. Please tell us a little bit about your story, as if nobody knew who you were or whatever. My understanding is that you started out in ministry and then have now moved into some pretty amazing business and entrepreneurial endeavors and coaching and those kinds of things. So can you tell us about that?
Yeah, of course. So, Cody Jefferson, I'm from the lovely state of Oklahoma. You'll hear that in the way that I talk. It'll come through occasionally. Sometimes it gets buried, but it's there nonetheless. So first and foremost, yeah, there's a lot of things that we could say about what I get to do these days that's really, really fun. Some of it's, I guess, a little bit impressive. More than anything, though, I'm a dad, first and foremost, to my son, Stetson Foster. There's a lot of roles and a lot of titles and a lot of things that I get to do in this world, but nothing compares to that. That is why I do what I do. That is why I answer the question every day of what needs to die in me to become the man that I said that I would be. Everything else you can take away from me. That's fine. I have built and rebuilt. I have lost it all and I have gained it all. But at the end of the day, what I will be defined as is the father and the dad of my son. And so that is the role that I hold most dear. All that to say, again, from here in Oklahoma, had a beautiful upbringing in a very country and rural home, raised a great deal by my grandparents. And I got into occupational ministry when I was 19. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I just knew that I was pretty good on stage, could hold a guitar okay, and I liked to talk. And so not much has changed. It's just evolved a little bit since then. I was in occupational ministry for 13 years. Stepped out of occupational ministry, out of pastoring in 2017 to found Embrace the Lion, which is the company and the movement that I lead today. And so what brought me to that point in 2015, I went through a fairly public divorce. No moral failing, nothing like that. I was just, I was a little too addicted to the affirmation and the attaboys and the accolades. And so I sacrificed everything that I loved on the altar of my ministry. And in the midst of that, in 2016, went through a fair amount of trauma and loss, several family members and friends to unrelated tragedies, still being all things to all people, still being front-facing leader. God's got a plan. Everything's going to work out to his glory. You just got to have faith. You got to pray more. And damn it, I was doing all the right things. I was saying all the right prayers. I was tithing all the right ways. But in the midst of it, the trauma caught up to me and my body ended up going septic, 106 fever, unconscious for a few days, losing a bunch of weight, and recognized, like, is this what's going to take me out? Is this it? This is what it's going to be. And recognized that my son deserved better, and I wasn't going to sacrifice my soul or my son on the altar of my success. And so stepped out of occupational ministry to try to figure out what was next, right? And try to figure out, how do I help guys like me? Because I recognized all of my life wasn't over, that the pulpit was preparation for the platform God had planned. I just didn't quite know what that path would look like. And so couldn't find anything, so I created it. And now over the past 4.5 years, we've built a fairly solid little movement. We've got around 4,200 men that we lead every single day. I walk alongside some pretty influential and what we would say important people in the world, in helping them answer the questions that money doesn't. So helping build organizations and infrastructures, helping build culture within organizations, helping entrepreneurs and founders grow their endeavors without sacrificing their soul on the altar of their success. Pastors, ministers, speakers as well. Become fairly well known in the industry for being the guy that walks alongside people of influence, and again helping them create balance and autonomy within their lives, and to help them become the men that they said that they would be. And so, yeah, it's been a wild ride, and here we are. I feel like I'm just getting started.
Sound like you're just getting started, man. That's freaking awesome.
Wild.
I want to go back to something you said that I didn't really know, which I don't know a ton about you. Like I said, I've been trying to learn as much as I can because I've been very intrigued from what I've seen, and I'm glad we're having this time. But you said something about the pulpit being the platform to set you up for what you're doing now, something to that effect. I know I can relate to that a lot, not from the pulpit. I was never in occupational ministry. And I think these guys probably know where I'm going with this too, but the way that we all got to know each other was through some other business endeavors where we had some success and we had opportunities to be influential and we had opportunities to even speak and coach and do those kinds of things. And it was something that was very enticing. Like I loved it. I like more so than the actual business numbers part of it. I love the opportunity to help people and coach people and grow myself, and fill my cup so I could overflow into others and all those things. And when that was coming to a head and realizing that wasn't going to be the direction that my life went, which I thought it was, I really thought that was the long-term thing that I would do. I realized that it was just setting me up to understand what my long-term thing was, which is what became Shepherds of Men. And this really our podcast is called The Movement. You use that word a couple of times.
Yeah.
And that's very much how we feel about it. So that's pretty awesome, man. I think there's probably a lot of overlapping mission and purpose here.
I love what you're doing.
Yeah.
I really do, man. I love what you're doing. I think a lot of the reason that we started what we're doing with Shepherds of Men was because we saw that there was a gap there. Been very influential in the church. I did a lot of the youth stuff. I mean, younger kids probably was nowhere near as polished as you when it came to ministry. We just served, kind of thing. Yeah. But what I found in the church was I saw, like, I felt like the church was very, very meek and like meager when it came to men. Like, women were very involved in the church, but men were not necessarily involved in the church. I think it's because men need different things from their faith, right, than women do. And one of the things that I saw was that men weren't necessarily involved. And I'm a firm believer, and I tell people all the time, like, you don't necessarily have to believe how I believe, but there is a book that's probably the best piece of literature that's ever been written that you can read without the intention of praying to God, that will guide you in a direction that will make you a fulfilled life and a good father and a good husband and all the different things and stuff. So that was a big deficit that we saw. I grew up without a dad, so I know what it's like to grow up without a dad. Thank the Lord that I ran into some people that were influential in my life and put me on the right path, because it would have been very easy for me to go the wrong direction. But it sounds like that's something that you found, right? Like, you saw that there was a deficit there. There was a gap for men, and it was an opportunity for you to fill it.
Yeah, there was a real lack of of real accountability and leadership. But when you reach the top of whatever that proverbial mountain is, you find that there's no one there to hold you to the standard because you've set it. And the problem with people who are addicted to climbing mountains, like myself, probably like you guys, is that when you find yourself at the top of that mountain, you find yourself then burning it straight to hell because all you know how to do is climb.
Yep.
And so what we find is this lack of accountability, lack of structure, lack of processes and systems. And, when everything that we're doing is tied to purpose, because in the church, everything is purpose driven, right? Like there's books on this, and we have to find what that one thing is, because heaven forbid it be more than one thing, or heaven forbid it just be living a life of integrity driven towards, again, reaching a potential, not because it's what you're called to, because it's some sort of platform you have to reach, but because it's an outpouring of who you're just called to be, right? So it's not this expectation, it's just an outpouring. Well, what happens is we don't ever learn how to continue setting new mountaintops to climb because we just end up burning them to the ground. And so what I found was, there was just a lack of accountability and a lack of structure. There was a lack of real masculine brotherhood to tie to.
Yeah.
And so we created it.
There you go. I love that.
Right.
You
what
said
does
that
it mean
too.
to be man? It's listen, I get we've all got, well, for the most part, we've all got beards. We're kind of missing one. But,
well, that never comes up.
Got a little goatee.
Yeah, I got the The rest of it comes in real thick too.
Well, he makes it up with small shirts.
Yeah,
makes up for it.
Listen, I'm the same way. My son is 6, and most people think we share shirts. That's
great. I'm only joking because I'm jealous. So.
I'm the one without the beard. Yeah. But
but what I say that to say, like, masculinity isn't about the beard you grow. It's not about the tattoos that you have. It's not about the fact that you ride a Harley or you don't, or that you chop wood or you don't. It's not about any of that. It's really about how a man conducts his own emotions, how he creates autonomy in his home, and how he leads himself in the conversation of not only healing, the trauma of his own childhood and youth, but then what he does to create a life of fulfillment and purpose, and how he drives that towards a common mission of edifying God in his life, because that's the frame that I operate from. Again, I am a believer, so your mileage may vary. And we've done a really good job in culture of creating really, really soft men, men that have no emotional resiliency, men who are nothing more than Peter Pans of their own, performance, addicted to porn and other things. We've created this idea that boys never grow up. They don't know how to grow up. They don't know how to grow up, manage their own emotions, how to manage their home. One of the greatest gifts that we can give our sons is teaching them how to keep their house in order. And so, and how to have a healthy fear of God, but also a healthy love of God and love of his people. So that's what we're here to do.
So true.
We've vilified masculinity. That was one of the things that
boy, we can get on that, can't we?
Yeah, we can get on anything.
Yeah, that was one of the things that really drove us big time, because we believe, like, you hit the nail on the head, and I appreciate you saying what you just said. And it was very well spoken, a lot better than I'm going to put it here. But what I believe is that the masculinity thing has been twisted to the point where it's like people believe that masculinity are all these bad things about men, right? Like all this stuff, like the He-Man kind of guy walking in there, beating on his chest,
toxic,
grabbing his woman by the back of the hair and dragging her to the bedroom, or telling her to go in there and wash dishes and sit down on the couch and drink a beer and stuff. And that was one of the big things for us, was to redefine masculinity. Like, you guys got it wrong. You guys missed it. That's not what masculinity is. Like you said, masculinity is a man that gives the greatest gift that he can get to his family, and that's his happiness, because he's got his house in order and he's got things in line like they should be.
Well, and two things. One, the Peter Pan analogy is funny because I think about, you do realize that usually a female plays Peter Pan when it's in theaters and stuff. So that tells you everything you need to know about that.
Well, because it'd be disturbing if you had a man in tights.
Well, those tights are,
yeah.
There's only one movie could pull that off, right?
Right.
Did you say Abe Lincoln? So, and the other one was something that'll come back to when I remember what it was. So,
my favorite thing about your story, just get to know you, Corey. Or Cody. Sorry.
Similar, but different word.
Yeah, totally.
Yep.
Had that. Sorry. That's you get to know me. I just come up with my own words and just say
He's
whatever.
the golden retriever of this relationship.
Yeah. Cody. But I really like that you went to find a place to kind of serve and couldn't find the position or what you were saying, and you just created it. You created what needed to be done. And the cool thing is with your story, I think that what God does sometimes to us is just bring us to our low. And then that we just put 100% our faith and trust in Him, because when you get to that low and you're like, okay, other people have experienced the same thing, and you became victorious, and you didn't say, hey, I'm going to be, sucking my thumb and say, oh, poor pitiful is me, and now I'm a victim of my circumstances. You became a victor and controlled your environment and said, hey, yeah, this sucked, but I'm not going to die from here. I'm not going to stop. I'm going to keep going. And now you're in a position where you can effectively help other people that has been in the same shoes. And because men who really are successful, just like how Cam kind of alluded to, a lot of us, when we got so focused in what we were doing, it kind of helped hurt our marriages and hurt other parts in our lives. And we weren't able to have that balance or just didn't know any better. And then you feel guilty because you gave a day to your family when your business is starting to suffer or whatever the case may be. You kind of play these like mind tricks in your brain, and you feel like you just always got to continue to grind, and that's not the case. There are times that it's more important to slow down and spend that time and say, hey, I'm here. I'm just not here, but I'm actually here with you. We're spending this time together. And that was really cool that you talked about that.
Absolutely, and it's even more imperative for me being a co-parent. So again, my son's mother and I are not married; she is remarried, and so my son has a bonus dad, and we're all incredibly close. We do a lot of things together. We vacation together. We hang out at least a couple times a week. We do trivia nights together. We do game nights at their house. We make sure so none of us grew up with healthy functioning set of parents. Like some have had step parents stuff, but like our bio parents, we all have fractured relationships, and so it was very, very important to us that even in the midst of us having a split home, that we healed those generational roots so that our son never had to experience it. And so
that's huge.
It is the fact that it doesn't matter where I travel in the country. It doesn't matter. I'm always back on a Wednesday because I pick my son up every Wednesday. So it doesn't. You can't pay me enough to be gone on a Wednesday. You can't pay me enough to be gone on the weekends that I have my son. You can't pay me enough to be gone and miss his baseball games. You'll see in my stories, like I'm the dad that's loud and proud.
Amen, amen, brother.
We all are, and so. There is this idea that I'm trying to instill in my son that you can have it all, that you can create success. Listen, I'm in 6 verticals. I'm considered one of the leading coaches in the country in walking with founders and entrepreneurs and business owners scaling to exit. I'm a contributor to Forbes, Business Insider, Entrepreneur. I'm an advisor to a venture capital firm and a private equity company. And so in the midst of all of that, if I can have a really fun time doing it, travel the country speaking, taking my son with me, taking the co-parents when they can, they got 2 18-month-old twin girls, and she's pregnant. Like, listen, they got a full quiver.
Wow. I understand that.
You got to slow down. You got to stop, buddy.
Don't pull up.
You can have it all. And the fact that we can joke about things like that, and the fact that we can all be friends, you can have it all, and we get to show our kids what's possible.
Right.
Well, I think and this was something, and it's something I'm still learning to a degree, and probably always will, I hope, is, like we've been talking about, is as a man, I think in our culture, in our society, it's always for the maybe for the 2% or even the 20% to a degree, is chasing something, chasing the goal, chasing the top of that mountain, whatever it is, and you feel like that is what you're supposed to do. What I had to realize is my marriage was starting to splinter, and I didn't even realize how much relationship building time I was missing with my kids, because I felt like, well, this is my purpose, this is what I'm supposed to do, so it would be wrong for me not to do this. I'm being a good example, yada, 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 BS. And then when it came to that, okay, well, you can keep doing that and lose your wife, or you can prioritize differently. And I thought that was bullshit to start with, that I was having to choose. But then when I got over myself and got over my ego and how I'd been programmed, I realized that, my actual number one purpose in life is to lead my household. To lead my wife and lead my kids and be an example for them, and then to build from that. And I heard you say this recently, building from you'll have to say it because I don't remember the exact verbiage. It was something you put out recently, and it was brilliant. You're building from your platform or from your purpose, not to it or whatever it was. It was so much gold you might not even remember it. It was
your
that
purpose
good.
Was your foundation, and you build from.
Well, it's that so many times we build because we're trying to live up to an expectation, and we think that this is what we have to do because it's what we're called to, or this is what we have to do because this is what God has called us to. And so we create a really, really unhealthy expectation for what we think God's call on our life is, which for those of us in leadership, we start to get really confused about God and call and God and God and job and God, and God's got to come first and my job's got to come first. But then my family's got to come first, but my family just needs to understand it. So we create this unrealistic, unhealthy expectation to live up to rather than an abundance and a call that we get to live out of. So our potential isn't an expectation we live up to, right? It's an overflow of God's call in our life that we get to live from. And so that might have been what I was saying.
That was it. That was it. Very much more
powerful.
eloquent than us.
That's very powerful.
But yeah, and
I talk for a living. So,
well, we're working on that.
I've just been talking for 20 years.
We're working on that. That's what we're aspiring to. Yeah, I was listening to some Andy Frisella today. He was actually on another podcast, which was really cool. Professional development or something like that.
Professional.
It's really good. He was a guest on there, and he was talking about something that we've said a lot. I've never heard him say it, but we talk about making deposits before you make withdrawals. And he's talking about it from a corporate perspective of, how do you really create success? And it is literally, now I'm not against looking at numbers. I saw your story recently talking about, you're saying your business is failing. You don't know what the numbers are. I agree with that 100%.
Yep.
At the same token, if you just take your eyes off the numbers for a minute and I think it's maybe take your heart off the numbers and put it into how much value are we adding to people? Like, do we truly have, as my pastor said this past week, does your motives matter? Like why you're doing what you're doing really matters. And that, not just from a corporate business perspective, but from a man perspective, from a leadership and a father and husband perspective, like making those deposits without an expectation of a result is when you really actually start getting the result, when you really actually start living in a huge blessing. I mean, it's like it's night and day, as I can tell by.
It's easy to make millions of dollars. It's really hard to be content with those millions of dollars that you're not called, and it's hard to spend dollars you're not called to do. It's not a conversation of ethics or what you can do. You're not called to it. That's why you see a lot of guys that I work with and walk alongside. These guys they're really good at making money, but if you're not called to it, you're going to spend it trying to convince yourself of all the ways that you're worth what you're making. This is why we get caught up in addiction. This is why we get caught up in overspending. This is why we get caught up in burning the mountain down to the ground, right? Because we're not called to it. You're not called. This is not a conversation of what you can do. This is not a conversation of what you're equipped to do. This is not a conversation of ethically even what you can do. You're not called to it. It's awful hard to be content with it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And that's one of the biggest things that we talked about, with Shepherds of Men, and what we're doing here is we found a deficit in men that really just aggravated us. It was a thorn in our side, because we work with people in our professional lives, obviously every single day.
Well, and we've also all got sons too, and we realize the next generation has to have it better,
right? Yeah. And we have several boys that we're
Josh just keeps making babies.
That we're raising up currently. But that was a big thing with what we did here. That was an agreement that we came to at the very beginning. Was like, money is a byproduct of what we're doing. right? We're not focused on the money. We're not focused on, I mean, obviously the more money that you have, the bigger the platform that you can work off of, the bigger the following. And it's a blessing from God to do that kind of stuff. But our heart and our focus has always got to stay on what our purpose is. And like you just alluded to whenever you were talking about it, it's like, is that where you should be? Or are you just chasing some imaginary idol, over to the side? That you think is going to make you happy, but it never will. And that's where you find those miserable people. But one of the things that we really want to do is we really want to make an impact, and that's one of the things. Like when we see, gentlemen like yourself, and other individuals that are doing it, it's just like you were just talking about the whatever it is, professionals or whatever it is,
professional development podcast.
I don't get. There's no sense of jealousy or competition or anything when it comes to stuff like that. It's like that is so needed in our society today. Yeah. That excites me, that there are different patches all over the country right now where men are stepping in the gap and going, listen, fellas, we have a huge responsibility as men to do what needs to be done and to lead. And when men do not lead, and we talked about this in a previous episode, when men act badly, bad stuff happens. Men have got to step up. Men have got to fill the gap. But in order for men to fill the gap, they need to be equipped to do that. They need to be empowered to do that and not beat down and talked about how, as a man, you shouldn't be, the one that leads the house and stuff like that because masculinity is a bad thing and everything. And it's sometimes men just need that reassurance. But that was one of the things that was, and I think it's really cool that you say that because I think they're like yourself and other movements that are out there are really focused in the right direction, right? All the other stuff are byproducts of what you get, but the fulfillment comes from really making an impact.
Yeah. Well, and an impact starts with a fulfilled life.
Right.
And understanding where your core identity and your core values come from. And again, it's out of that we're able to create, and we're able to create a deep sense of fulfillment. And that's our responsibility. I mean, if the king doesn't rise, the kingdom dies.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, and a lot of that, as we discussed this initiative, originally before we even knew what it was going to look like, and as we're still learning how it's kind of manifesting, was we realized that there's a fatherless generation, and kudos to you for being the opposite of that, when you could have very easily done what a lot of weak ass men do, and maybe it's because they just never had an example or they just don't have a foundation or whatever, but you went through a tough time, you were divorced, and a lot of the dudes are out of the picture for the kid, and then your son suffers for it, and it's not his fault, and you've done exactly the opposite of that. Not only not done that, but prioritized being that father figure, and that's something that we're kind of in that position where we feel like not only do we need to raise up that next generation and be fathers for our own kids, but we need to make sure that the men that are already grown, realize that it's not too late.
Well, not only that, but highlight individuals like yourself.
Right.
Like what you've done, and you say it kind of like, hey, this is something that's important to me and stuff, and it's kind of passive. That's a big freaking deal, man.
Yeah.
Like what you're doing is a really big deal. Yeah. And we want to make sure that what we do is to highlight individuals like that. Mm-hmm. Like you can be rich and drive Lamborghinis and do all this stuff that you want to do and stuff. But if you're an absent father and you've raised 3 shitheads because you weren't around that turn out to be toxic to society, what good did you really do in your life?
That's it.
But you got a Lamborghini.
The profit of man to gain the world and then sacrifice the soul. Come on.
Yeah.
That's right. But see, the thing about it is we shouldn't be looking at guys like that. And that's the problem with society. What we're looking at now is the guy that rents a Lamborghini that's all fancy and stuff. And I'm not saying that I don't like nice stuff. I'd drive a Lamborghini in a heartbeat. I'm not saying that. But we need to take men and raise men up that are doing the hard stuff. Like what you're doing right now with the co-parenting thing. Like I co-parent as well. With my 12-year-old son, I'm not nowhere near as good as you are about it. We've created a relationship over 12 years that is a comfortable, give and take kind of relationship in that situation. But I'm not playing board games at their house and stuff like that. And real shit though. What's really cool about that is your son, like he doesn't miss a beat in life right now, because there's never a question like, am I wanted here, am I not wanted there, is there the give and take and stuff, like it's probably seamless for him.
I'll tell you, as an example of the child that went through that in your son's position, my parents weren't playing board games together either, but when I was a kid, I had no clue that they didn't get along. Not a clue. Like they did everything in their power to make my childhood as quote unquote normal as possible when they divorced when I was 2 years old. But there's nothing where I look back and go, man, my childhood was crummy because my parents were divorced or anything. I just had a great family here and I had a great family over here, and they made it work. And I will just tell you, not that you need to hear it from me, but I'll tell you as a grown man, what that did for me. I didn't realize obviously at the time, but now it's like it's all the difference in the world. It really is. So.
Mm-hmm. And my story's a little different. I actually had my mom and my dad pitted the kids against each other, against the parents. Like, so that's refreshing that you actually went above and beyond instead of saying your wife or your mom is a piece of shit, whatever, she lied, she did this, whatever, and bring up all these bad situations. And my mom never did that initially. My dad kind of did, like, started it, and then my mom just kind of fed to it, like just saying, well, tell him he did this, it's kind of defending herself. And it gave me a perspective that I would never have happen in my life if worst case comes to worst. But I believe in, forever, and we all do. We all go into it, that, hey, it's never going to happen to us, but you can't really say that because you don't know what life is going to deal you. And it might be something that, like what you're just doing. Let me ask you a question. If you didn't experience what you experienced and got to that low, would you be where you're at today, or would you still be doing the same old thing? And what is your life more fulfilling now than it was then?
Are you talking to me?
Yes, sir.
It all had to happen.
Yep.
I don't entertain what could have been because that's a frame of reality that doesn't exist.
Right.
Far too many times we live in this idea of past and what we romanticize what could have been, and that does nothing but keep us in a frame of history, and it keeps us stuck. I'm not Israel. I'm not going to circle that mountain for 40 years looking for my promised land. My promised land is found through the portal of the present. And that's the only place that reality exists. So I don't try to future cast a reality that isn't yet here. I don't try to live into a future that isn't yet here. I don't over romanticize a past that doesn't exist. It's nothing more than a collection of my memories that serves to confirm my own suspicions about what I think is real. What is real is what is right now. And that's the only frame that I live in. And so I am grateful that everything has happened the way that it has. I grew up with two parents that, listen, in my 37 years, I've never sat down together. I've never had a meal with my parents. I've never had them in the same room together. Never in my life. And that is not the present that I'm creating for my son. That is not the present that my son's mother, her husband, and I are creating for our kids together. We're creating something different. And that is the frame that I'm concerned with. And that is the frame that I live into and I speak into and I pray into and that I create every single day. And so do I think it all had to happen? Yeah, it all had to happen exactly how it happened. Because if it hadn't, I wouldn't be who I am. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. I wouldn't be walking alongside the incredible men and women that I am. I wouldn't be having this conversation with you right now. And we wouldn't be entertaining the movements that we are, in the ways in which we're living and moving and have our being, in the ways in which God is using every single one of us, the four of us, and every single listener of this podcast and this show. It all had to happen.
That was the best answer. I almost want to applaud you. That's so good.
It's okay.
So,
we can applaud.
Have you done this before?
Yeah, you've done this before.
Have you done this before? First time.
He still doesn't know if we're talking to him.
Are you talking to him?
Cody, we are talking
I'm watching
to you.
all of you talk, and I'm trying to discern whether you're looking at me or looking at each other.
I guess we need to look at the camera.
Yeah, we need to look at you there.
Hey,
is that you over there? Okay. Hi.
Yeah.
Oh, welcome.
Yeah.
We have multiple
Tell us
cameras
about
looking
yourself.
at us.
Yeah, good. Yeah. Glad you're here.
What's up, guys?
I see you checking us out.
So
right.
one of the things that we've been a very big proponent of is, before we did this, we wanted to make sure that there was kind of non-negotiables about our lives and our principles and what we stand on and stuff like that, because ultimately, obviously, like Wilson just said, you're always looking at the best and what the expectations are of what you're going to do, and I'm an optimistic type of person. So before things get great, what's the most important things as far as where you build your foundation on? What are your principles in life? And a lot of times, I think where men have things mixed up is where their priorities lie. Mm-hmm. And one of the things we talk about a lot, and I think we're all pretty aligned with from a priority standpoint of God, country, family, business, in that order. If the God part isn't right, that needs to be focused on before anything else. And then, obviously, without a country, we can't where we don't have the freedom that we have to do what we need to be doing. So the country is extremely important. And then our family, obviously, before the business aspect. And it sounds like you have that very much so in line. So do you have, I mean, just for the listeners on our podcast, like how do you draw that out very simply for your life?
In terms of what? Help me frame that out. What are you looking for?
Yeah. So as far as your priorities in life, so one of the things that, like, I think as a man, I think most men are very simple at their core. Like, give me, black and white, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, kind of thing. And when we talk about priorities, we talk about God, country, family, business, and in that order. So God is number one, country's number two. See what I'm saying?
Yeah. So my priority, first and foremost, is my faith.
Yep.
So, which means that my second priority is myself. So every morning I'm waking up early and I'm filling my own cup because I can't pour from an empty cup. I did that in ministry for about a decade and it almost killed me. And the thing about people is people are thirsty. And people are thirsty for a water that I can't provide them, but God can. It is a living water. So it is my responsibility to fill my cup up with his word, with his provision, with his promise. And so every morning I am up at 3:45 and I'm in the word for at least 2 hours. It's not because I have to, because I get to. It's because every day, again, I'm answering the question of what needs to die in me to become the man that I said that I would be. And that means that I can't frame that in my own accord. And so there's God, there's me, then my son, then my circle. Because understand that I am only as strong as the accountability that I surround myself with. So I surround myself with strong, capable, competent, godly men. And they know everything about me. 3 minutes before this call, I got off the call with one of my brothers. We talked for about an hour and 15 minutes. Before that, I was on a call with my brothers in Elite, which is one of the masterminds that I lead. We're on a conversation for about 2.5 hours on how iron sharpens iron and how we strengthen each other in life and business. So there's God, there's me, there's my son, there's my circle. Obviously, there's my family. Those are my top 5.
I like that. So, and the reason that I wanted to ask you that specifically is because obviously you're more mature in your business endeavor with what you're doing right now. And you deal with a lot of men, that are, whether it's a depression thing or just a lack of fulfillment in life or whatever it may be. Do you find that a lot of men do not have those priorities in order?
Yeah. I mean, they do to the extent of, listen, you can be, so do men have their priorities in order so much as they're aware of their priorities?
Yep.
Listen, you can be completely honest with yourself and still not be telling the fucking truth.
Yep.
So it's incredibly important and imperative that you have people around you, whether they be coaches, mentors, pastors, friends, brothers, that can hold you accountable to what it is that you say that you want. Because you show me what you do and I'll show you what you actually believe about yourself and what you believe to be possible for yourself. You show me what you do and I'll show you the fruit of the tree that you're trying to grow. I don't care what you say. I don't care what you write on social media. I don't care about what you post in your story. I don't care about any of that. I don't care about how many viewers you got on your podcast. I don't care. Show me the fruit. Show me what you're doing, actually. And I'll show you what I'm doing. So do I find that men have their priorities skewed? I find that men have their priorities in order to a baseline of what they actually want in this life. Because again, show me what you do, I'll show you the fruit. Problem is, again, most men are not telling the truth. They're being honest with themselves, but honesty and the truth are two very, very different things because we get too emotionally attached to what it is that we say that we want, which is usually confirmed by the suspicions of our history. And so when we can find accountability and when we can find someone who will be objective, that is unemotionally attached to the outcome, that is unemotionally attached to our history and the story that we present ourselves, then we can find usually the priority that we're seeking. And we can find the baseline of the expectation that we say that we're serving. And in the middle of all of that, we can then see where the truth lies and we can then find a pathway to whatever that paradise is that we're seeking.
Yeah, I love that. And Cam, I know you got something on the tip of your tongue, but you said you can be completely honest with yourself and still not be telling the fucking truth. Dude, I'm gonna write that on my board. I'm gonna write that on my board at the house, because that right there hit me really hard, man. I appreciate that. That's a mouthful. That tells you everything that you need to know. Big reason why mentorship is so important in your life. I think that's awesome, man.
Well, and it's interesting that the conversations go in this direction, because I told the guys before we started, I was like, I don't have like questions for Cody. I want to talk to Cody, right. Which I'm kind of known for that. Like, I'm not the bullet point guy. I'm not prepared in that sense in the outline, but I'm prepared to be open and honest and let it rip. But one of the thoughts on my mind this week that, it just kind of popped up in some quiet time or whatever was, I'm hearing you tell how your schedule is, how, 3:45 in the morning, 2 hours in the Word. And I've seen just the little bit I see on social media, how productive your day is. And we use busy, not productive, because those are different.
Sure.
We use productive, not busy, because those are different.
We in society use busy.
Right. But, some men hear that, or some males hear that before they're into that man mindset. And it's maybe overwhelming, or maybe like hell to the no, like this,
Sure.
This is crazy. And they think they're going to be worn out, and I got to thinking, and I'd love to hear your input on this. I got to thinking about how how life is kind of the reverse of other things when it comes to being quote unquote worn out. So what I put in my notes was like your clothes. Like, it doesn't matter how long you've had them, it matters what you've done in them. So if you're working out in them a lot, or working in them a lot, or doing all this, like you're wearing them down, or tires on your car. If you're driving a lot, they go faster, right? They wear down faster. Life is different. Everybody thinks that if you're up early and you're in the Word, and then you're working out, and then then you're hustling all day for your business, and then you're flying home to make sure you're getting your son, and you're doing all these things. It sounds exhausting, but really the truth is it's the opposite of that. Like, you're energized by that. I know I am.
Well, not only that, but
when you're in your purpose, and you're on purpose, and you're living for purpose, with purpose, by purpose, right? And everything is an outpouring of again, not an expectation that I'm living up to, but an abundance that I get to live out of. It's all a gift.
Mm-hmm.
All a gift. And understand, like, it sounds like I'm incredibly busy. I'm actually not. I have a really amazing team, because one of the things that I understand is that my no is more important than my yes. And so you'd be amazed at the things that I say no to, or that I automate, delegate, or eliminate in my life, so that I can focus on the things that I want to focus on. Right?
He just told us how he prioritized us.
It's 7:49 p.m.
Right
now here in Oklahoma.
Right.
And we're here on this podcast. And listen, I'm as fresh as I was this morning. Why? Because I only do things that light me up.
Right.
Yep.
I say no more than I say yes. It sounds like I'm really busy. It sounds like that. But the truth of the matter is I've been getting up that early since I was a kid. It's not because I have to. It's just, I don't even set an alarm. It's just what I do.
Mm-hmm.
People ask me, like, what's your why? Like, why do you do that? Because I do.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not telling you have to. I'm not telling you it's even a good idea for you. I don't know you.
Right.
It might be a hell of an idea, a horrible idea if you try to wake up as early as I do. I'm not trying to frame that around you. I don't know you. Why do I do it? Because I do it. Because I had to get up early as a kid, and so I learned to get up really early. It's not romantic. It's not sexy. It's not because some fucking book told me to, because I think it's how I'm going to win the morning. It's not any of that.
It's not.
I make my bed first thing every single morning. You know why? Because if I didn't as a kid, I'd get my ass handed to me. So I just learned to make my damn bed.
But that's important to state, though, because it's not a magic pill.
It's not.
The recipe is not the same.
If you do these 7 things before 5 o'clock in the morning, the fucking productive fairy is going to come over and sprinkle dust all over your day, and you're just going to piss excellence.
Yeah. Is she related to Peter Pan?
I would totally agree with that. I'm a big proponent of earning your pillow, though. I think one of the reasons that people that are highly productive in their lives, and I'm not talking about busy, like what you just said. I'm not a busy individual. I get a lot of shit done throughout the day, but I'm not busy. I'm very good at, like you said, the delegation and stuff like that. but I earn my pillow by the end of the day. And when I sleep very well.
That's
because
it.
I don't have anything on me when I go to sleep.
No.
I was up like I'm not up at 3:40. Well, let me rephrase that.
Last night you
Just
were
the last couple
at 3:15.
Yeah, every hour with this new baby, and apparently my 15-month-old has got some kind of
He's
contagion.
competitive. He's competitive.
That's what
He
it
wants,
is. He's highly competitive. But I think that's great. I think luckily for you learned that early on. I think there is some magic to getting up early. I don't think there's any kind of certain recipe that's like, hey, if you do these 7 things, like you said, the fairy will touch you.
It's so great.
Now that was probably not appropriately addressed there. But anyways, if you do get up earlier though, starting off earlier,
You got to reprioritize if you're waiting for the fairy to touch you.
Yeah.
Very uneven.
It's a different problem.
For all the single
Different
men,
episode.
for all the single men that are listening to this, get up early. The fairy will touch you.
For all intents and purposes, there is something really beautiful to waking up early and waking up before the sun's
Sure.
up. I think there is something inherently masculine about that. I think that a man who is on purpose, living with purpose, I think that there is an approach to your day that starts in the morning that approaches it with a certain level of gratitude and a certain level of effectiveness and a certain level of fervency and a certain level of direction and a focus. I think that's important. I think that it's important for a man to have purpose. A man without purpose, it's been said, is a ship without a rudder.
Right.
So for me, I'm waking up and I'm waking up in gratitude. That's the first thing that I do every single morning is as I focus on gratitude, then I focus on making my bed and doing things that, again, create a sense of completion. Because if I can start my day winning, if I can start my day by completing things, then all I know is I've got to just keep the winning streak going because I've already started by winning. And again, when we create patterns, what we're doing is we're creating a system for our brain that says, like, this is what I do, this is who I am, I finish what I start, I complete the task in front of me, I create autonomy in my life, and I focus on the mission that is moving forward. And so when we talk about being busy, I'm not incredibly busy, but I am incredibly productive. And I'm productive because I know what I'm working toward, I know what I'm working for, and I know why I'm doing it. And so far too many times, the reason that we get stalled out, the reason that we get frustrated, the reason that we get overwhelmed, it's not because we have too much to do. It's because we don't know what we're focused on and we don't know what actually moves the needle forward in our life and business. And so we've created this idea of unnecessary suffering as a badge of honor because our dad suffered and our grandfather suffered. And because we've created this idea that suffering is synonymous with success. And it's not. It doesn't have to be. Right.
Dude.
And so when we can create a baseline of expectation for ourselves that I don't have to suffer, that I can create success in my life and in my business and in my health and in my spiritual walk, it doesn't require unnecessary suffering. It will require pain. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. Suffering we create in our lives often to justify an experience that we've had and to justify why we don't have what we say that we want. It doesn't have to be that way.
It's a great way to unpack that.
Dude,
Man,
I'm telling you, you're hitting me right in the heart because like what we did previously, I'll just say in a past life, there was this badge of honor for how hard you were working and how much you were suffering, and it was like this probably truly a toxic masculinity thing, and it was like nobody was winning. Nobody was fucking winning. We were just all working hard and suffering.
Yeah, if you can't hold your head up because you're so tired that you can't hold your head up anymore, that you're winning.
Yeah, and the last man standing. Last man standing is who wins.
I'm from rural Oklahoma.
I'm from Mississippi, so I feel you, brother.
My dad owns a feed store.
Amen.
There was so much guilt in my soul, not because of anything my dad did, not at all, but because I couldn't outwork him. Mm-hmm. And when I started making real money, like real money, there was a certain level of guilt that I had to overcome, that I was shaming my family because I wasn't working hard enough in terms of physical, manual, blue-collar labor.
Yeah. To justify that money.
To justify what I was doing. I was solving very, very high-level problems. I solve very, very high-level problems for individuals and organizations. I'm one of the best at what I do, but I had to reconcile that against where I was from.
Yeah, that
when
makes
I
sense.
would go home, God, I'm going to take this Rolex off real quick. Because I don't want, I'm going to take all this off because I don't want you to think I'm better than you. I don't want you to think that I think that I'm something now. I don't want you to think anything like that. But the reality is that when I do put this on, it's not because I'm somebody. It's because I do solve really big problems. And it's because when I look at this timepiece, I'm recognized that the most valuable asset that I have is my time.
Yep.
And that means something.
Yep.
And that I've invested my time into solving very, very large problems. And that means something. And that's nothing to be ashamed of. So now I go home and I hold my head up high. And you know what's funny? My family holds my head up high too. They couldn't
Guaranteed.
be more proud of me. It was a frame that I was creating internally.
Absolutely.
Yep.
We were just talking about auto suggestion.
It was an expectation. Listen, we can live our whole lives trying to live up to an expectation that nobody ever placed on.
Yep. I agree.
It's true. Man, I hope you guys are listening to this. This is good shit.
Listen to it twice.
Oh, man, I'll be listening to
Or
this
more.
a lot. This is good nuggets.
Dude, I would love to just drain absolutely everything out of you, but I don't know if it's possible. I think we'd be here
Listen,
for...
listen, I've heard that a few times in the past. If you know what I mean.
Amen.
Yep.
Amen.
Right on, man. But I think, and this is what I love right here is it's a real life conversation with men that
we
want great
couldn't be
stuff.
a bunch of dudes if we didn't get inappropriate.
Yeah,
attention.
no,
You have to. You have to. The only thing we're missing is a glass of whiskey and a cigar. I mean, that's really...
That's
the only
it.
thing
I'm
you're
drinking
missing is some whiskey.
That's right. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're right.
We got our whiskey.
We'll have to do another episode. I got to come better prepared.
Listen, next time where are you guys at? And next time I'll just fly in.
Nashville.
Oh God, yeah, I'll be there. I'll be there in mid-May. Let's do this again.
Hell
no
yeah,
kidding.
let's do
No
it.
shit.
Absolutely.
100%.
Yeah.
Block off
We'll
my
get the
calendar for
mindset
that.
doctor with us too. We'll all hang
Let's
out.
go. Let's get Mosley. He literally just texted me.
Yeah, he
just shared
shot
that
a
I was
message
on
up.
this.
Yeah.
And he just texted me. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
No,
That's
he's a
awesome.
good dude, man.
Real good
He
dude.
really is a good dude.
Yep. So
Yeah. Let's make it the 5 of us next time.
you hear it,
Okay.
Mosley? We're tagging you, Mosley. You're coming.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Guys, y'all have anything else? I honestly could sit here for another 2 hours and just chat with you, regardless if we were recording or not. Man,
I'm looking forward to the next time.
This
I don't
is
know.
refreshing to me because, like Josh said earlier, this is not a when we see men doing what you're doing. It's not a competition thing. We're all competitive dudes, no doubt about it.
No.
You know, Josh wins the smallest T-shirt contest all the time. You know, Chris wins the biggest smile.
You got the beard.
I don't know. I got the short guy syndrome going on, but we are competitive dudes. But it is refreshing, man, and we do bust each other's chops, and we love it. But man, I'm glad that we're creating these connections. I know it's valuable to us. I hope we can bring some value to what you're doing.
Listen,
in the future.
anytime you guys want to chop it up, and literally anytime, I don't care if it's tomorrow. Anytime you guys want to do this, this is not an arrogant statement. I'm probably on 3 to 4, sometimes 5 podcasts a week. This is legitimately the most fun I've had in so long. Anytime you guys want to do this, I'm game.
Dude.
And literally, anytime I'm in Nashville, you guys want to sit down and do this,
Hell
I'm
yeah.
in.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Let's book
Yep.
it.
That's
book
probably
it.
the best compliment we could have got
For
right
sure.
there, man.
Yes,
Appreciate
sir.
that. Yeah, no, absolutely. We love having fun and we love making impact. So it sounds like we got a lot in common.
Absolutely.
That's it. Listen, and we're a bunch of men who get to say we do that for a living. Like,
Damn right.
what a gift
Yeah,
is that?
damn right.
Right.
And a recognition that, like, if we can do this, any man listening, you have, at the end of the day, for us, we're really looking to answer 3 questions. 1, is it possible? Like, I see you guys doing it. Can I do it? Yeah, of course you can. 2, do I have permission? That was a big thing for me. Remember, permission to have success in my life, permission that life after divorce could look like success for a man who was in ministry and a man who still is in ministry. It's just the pulpit is bigger now. And 3, will you go with me? Because none of us wants to go on this journey alone.
Mm-hmm.
And so anytime we can answer those 3 questions, and that's what we're doing here in this conversation, is 1, we're saying, yes, it's possible that regardless of where you're from, what you've done, who you've been, who you've done it with, what you've experienced in this life, that yes, hope, mission, purpose, promise, they're all present for you and they're right in front of you. Not as an expectation that you live up to, but out of a promise that you get to live from. 2, you have permission regardless of anything that you've experienced in this life. It all had to happen in a way that brings you closer to, again, the fulfillment of God's finished work in your life. So yes, you have permission, and we will absolutely be here to cheer you on and to celebrate you and to be your hype man the entire way. That is what this conversation is. That is what this show is. That is what our movement is. And again, there is no competition. There's only community. We are linking arms in this, and we consider each other brothers now and moving forward. I'm in. I'm game.
Yeah,
Whatever
dude.
you guys decide you want to
100%.
do in this life, you consider me a fan. You consider me a brother. You consider me linking arms with you. You consider me a partner. Whatever you want to do.
Yeah,
That's
100%. 100%. Same. It's reciprocated, and I probably speak for these fellas as well.
Absolutely.
I mean, all I want to say is I'm ready to go charge hell with a squirt gun. You know, like I'm ready, dude. I don't know of a better way to wrap this up, Cody. We appreciate the hell out of it, honestly, man, and that means a lot.
Yeah.
Even though it's one of those things. It's interesting because I remember when Mosley kind of was telling me about you, and he said that y'all had like an instant connection. And I know how I'm learning how he's wired. We're still getting to know each other, but like you can tell pretty early.
Right.
And so it's a compliment and it's encouraging because you're further down the road than we are, doing some of the same things. And it's an honor.
We knew you'd have fun though.
But at the same time, you know, we feel like the same way, you know, we got the same blood running through our veins too. So the community part of it is a huge piece. So I say we like just go kick ass and take names together and make a lot of better men, you know?
Absolutely.
Let's go.
So tell everybody how to find you for our listeners.
Yeah, so there's a 1-900 number that you can
I wasn't going to give that one out, but okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, let her rip.
They've already called that one.
You know, there's I'm CodyJefferson.com. There's a lot of different ways. The quickest way, you know, we found each other on Instagram. I would say of all the platforms, I mean, you can LinkedIn, Facebook, all that, but probably the most active is going to be Instagram. It's just Cody_Jefferson. You know, we're all in the business of telling stories. I believe everybody's got a powerful story to tell. I'd love to hear yours. That just means that you share it. So just shoot me a message. I'm fairly approachable, and anybody who messaged me, I 100% respond to. We do field quite a few messages, so if it takes me a day or two to get back to you, just know that I will. But would love to connect. Would love to serve you in any way. Would love to share with you, you know, what we've got going on, in any way we might be able to serve you in a deeper capacity.
Well, and we can attest to that because the reason we're here right now is because you put a story out and you said something about if you have a podcast you want me to be on, send me a message. And I literally sent it right that second because I was like, dude, if that opportunity is there, let's take it. And it's been, you know, you're a man of your word for sure. So
Absolutely.
Guys, check Cody Jefferson out. Whatever, I don't care, man, woman, whatever, doesn't matter. If you're still trying to figure that out,
Send your dog
Might be
over
on
the
the wrong
site. Send your
channel.
dog
There
over.
it is. I was wondering when that was going to come out. There it is.
I don't know if you want. Don't send your woman to me. Listen. Not trying to do that.
Mr. Stereo Girl.
exactly.
I gotta get some tattoos.
I know, right? It's the knuckle taps. It's the hand taps that really differentiates. I mean, So, again, we appreciate you being on here, man. And guys, check this out. Check out Cody Jefferson on Instagram at Cody_Jefferson, I believe. Shepherdsof.men for all the stuff that's coming down the pipe. Cody, we will be linking up in May. I don't even know what camera I'm looking at, but we will communicate on this. We'll make it happen in May when you're in Nashville. When Men Reforge, the high carbon experience is coming down the pipe. It's going to be about 6 months out for that weekend. We want you there. We want you to be a part of what we're doing there and in any capacity. So
I'm one of your speakers.
Absolutely.
Yeah, buddy.
Thank you again, brother. We appreciate everything. You've been a part of the movement, and so have our listeners been a part of the movement. We'll see you soon.